What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another one. Today is finally fuel system day for the STI. We have a Radium double pump hanger to install in the car, and then we're also going to be running -8 feed, -6 return lines to the front, and that will prepare us for this lovely engine once we finally get UPS here with our cam bolts. So I kind of made some space in the garage, not a whole lot, it's going to be pretty tight, but I want to get this car off the jack stands and in the garage back up on jack stands, and that way when I'm under the car running the AN lines, as you can see, it is a wet mess under there. So I'd definitely rather have it in here where it's halfway dry, a little bit of kitty litter, but no big deal. So I'm going to bring the jack out, get the car jacked up off the jack stands, and then we'll try to roll it in here, and then we can get this party started. So here we have the Radium fuel pump. We got two Walbro 450s in there. We have a Radium fuel filter. And then these are all of our AN lines that we're going to be running. So like I said, we got -8 feed and -6 return. Now, I just went ahead and cleaned all these out with some brake clean and water, blew them out with the air compressor, and now they're just sitting here getting any little remaining bit of water out of there. You definitely don't want to put them in and have water in your fuel system. Now, I believe to get these seats out, there's little pull tabs underneath. You just kind of got to pull it like a little clip. I think there's 3 of them, and then we should be able to get these out. I'm going to pull it out real quick, and then I'll show you guys the little clips. You can't really see them from on top, obviously. So like I was saying, it's just these little black tabs. You kind of just reach your fingers in under the seat, pull this guy back, and that releases the seat. One on each side, and then the middle just pulls straight up and out. So over here on the passenger side, this is the cover for the fuel hanger, the stock fuel hanger, stock fuel pump. So we just need to pull this off. It just looks like 4 Phillips screws, and then this will come off, and then we can pull the stock hanger out from under here. So looking under the cover, I already pulled this connector out of here. It's just a little clip on the back side, push it in, pull it out. So now what we need to do is disconnect these stock fuel lines. I believe I can just take my company 23 tool, stick it under there and pop them off. They're just little quick disconnects. And then we'll take each one of these nuts off around the side, pull the top off, and then we should be able to eventually pull this guy out of here. So looking at our stock hanger, we have like a little fuel level sensor guy here. We need to pull this off because it's going to go on the new unit. This connector isn't going to fit on the Radium, so we actually just have to cut these wires, and then we'll use butt connectors to add it to the new guy. That comes off just like that, just a little clip, and it slides up. And pull these wires out. I'm just going to cut these wires right about here, and that'll give us plenty of room to wire it up to the new hanger. So now looking at the back of the Radium hanger, you see these two little tabs. That's exactly where this is going to go. Just slides in and slides down. And that's it. So now these wires, we're going to go get some fuel resistant butt connectors and some heat shrink, and then connect these two guys together. Now I don't believe that the positive and negative matters on these. If you look at the top, there is no positive negative on the fuel level or the fuel temp, so I don't think we need to worry about that. And all the instructions say positive and negative doesn't matter. Just got back from O'Reilly's, picked up some weatherproof butt connectors. So there's just heat shrink right around these wires, and should be good to go for a fuel system. So I'm gonna get you guys on the tripod. We'll get these nice and crimped up, heat shrunk, and then we can drop this fuel pump in the car. Alright, so we just hit these with the heat gun, and as you can see, they're nice and molded right up with the wires. Shouldn't have any issues there. We're going to be reusing this stock seal, and then also this guy right there. We're going to be using that too, so I'm just going to get these cleaned up, and then it's just going to sit exactly how it was on the stock one, just kind of right up on top. So let's get them cleaned up, everything clean, and then we can drop it back in the car. If you guys look at this ring that has to go in there first, you'll see it has little nubs on it. These nubs have to line up with the little holes on the bracket. So make sure when you put this in, it's kind of facing the right way. So this is, pretend this is the front of the car. You want to line the nubs up so they're going to line up with those holes. Before you make the mistake that I almost just made, make sure you put the screws back in the side of this and make sure they're tight. So if you don't have screws in there, you're going to lose your fuel pumps. We just got the fuel pump all tightened down. Now, these stock lines we're just gonna leave in here just in case we go back to a stock system at one point. Yeah, they're fine. They can stay in here. We'll just kind of tuck them out of the way. Now, if you see this picture of the car on here, there's a reason it's facing forward. That is the front of the car. Make sure you put your pump in that way because it is directional. Now we just gotta wait for Mark to get home. That way he can help me roll it into the garage. We'll get it back up on jack stands, and then we can route our AN lines. I think the wiring for this fuel pump I'm gonna put in a completely separate video, all on its own. It's just gonna be a how-to video on how to run all the wiring because there's really nothing on YouTube. I've done like 5 hours of research, and yeah, just been reading iWire's kind of install guide, trying to figure out how to run it. It's pretty complex, kind of intimidating, but honestly, it doesn't even look too bad. So yeah, that's gonna be in its own video, and that way for those of you who are trying to put one in and you're intimidated, don't know what the hell's going on, that'll help you out. Okay, it's a few days later now. If you saw the last video, you'll probably see where we're kind of picking up. So the motor is in the car. We have the AOS remounted on the passenger side of the pitch stop. And then I re-ran all the hoses, cut what I need to cut, and everything is pretty neat and organized for the most part. We still got a few things we got to button up. But power steering pump's on, AC compressor's on, the radiator's in. I did a few things off camera just to try to speed things up. And as you can see, I picked up a little propane heater so we can actually have some heat in here. Now back to the fuel system. We're ready to run the lines under the car. So I have the skid plate dropped underneath the fuel tank so we can run the AN lines all the way down, right all along the frame rail. And then we're going to come over the transmission right up by our heater core hoses almost. And then the feed's going to go to the rail and the return line's going to go right to the bottom of the regulator. Now I am still waiting for the mount for the regulator. I don't have that from the guy I bought the regulator from, but it is in the mail. So we'll probably mount it up kind of where we're going to want it, and then we can get all the lines hooked up today. So let's, I'm going to get these run. It's under the car and it's very tight under there, kind of hard to hold the camera. But once I get all those run, I'll try to show you the best I can on how I ran it and where. And that way if you guys are doing the same setup, you can kind of follow right along. Alright, so under the car we have the lines coming down underneath our little skid plate. Now here, I want to find something to get these nice and tight under the frame rail since I don't have this middle skid plate. But from there, we kind of have it routing right up, tucked under the frame rail, into the fuel filter, which I also want to get tucked up somehow. Those I'll work on in a bit. And then the lines go up over the transmission, straight through there. So yeah, I try to have everything as nice as I can, but without the skid plate, I just have like little zip tie contraptions. That's all we can do for now. So now coming back up to the bay, I know it looks like a mess up here. There's hoses everywhere. This AOS really just throws hoses all over the place. We're still working on cleaning that up. But here's our Dash 6 return line. This is going to go to the bottom of the regulator, which I'll probably mount somewhere in this strut tower area. And then this Dash 8 feed comes up. And it's kind of hard to see, but kind of goes right into the rail down there. And then the rail is going to go to the other rail. And then the back of that rail is going to feed to our ethanol sensor, which I have mounted right on the back of the motor, right out of the way. And then back from the ethanol sensor to the regulator. And then that'll return it to the tank. Look at all these freaking pine needles. We got to give this thing a bath. The last thing we have to do is just get these lines on from the back of the rail to the ethanol sensor and then to the regulator. So let's slap these guys on and then we will be pretty much done running lines. Having a look on the passenger side, we have the Dash 8 AN in, and then goes Dash 6, comes out, goes over to our ethanol sensor, and then ethanol sensor to our regulator. As you can see, this line here is pretty tight. This is a 5/8 PCV hose. Essentially just connects breather to breather to breather. I might have to recut this and make it bigger, but if we can make this work, it's pretty clean how it is, kind of how it tucks underneath. But I don't know. If we got to make it bigger, we'll make it bigger. So here's a better angle. You got the ethanol sensor, and the line comes off, and we essentially just run it right over next to our return line, because it is a return line. So it's going to go into the regulator, and then back down the return to the back of the car. So a little update. This is where the fuel pressure regulator is going to sit, and it's going to mount to those stock bolts down there. So it does mount sideways with the IAG mount that's in the mail. But yeah, it actually works out pretty perfect. You can see the return line comes up into the bottom, or now the side of the fuel pressure regulator. We have our fuel pressure sensor in the front, and then on the bottom, which would be the side, but it's on the bottom now, is the line from the ethanol sensor. So that's exactly how that would sit. We got our gauge nice and up on top, and then our fuel pressure sensor is ran to the passenger side. So the only thing we're waiting for to completely kind of button up all the routing for this fuel system is our crossover line. That's in the mail, and then the bracket for the fuel pressure regulator is also in the mail. Now, what we have to do to complete the fuel system is wire the whole thing. Like I think I said in the beginning of the video, I'm going to make that into its own separate video, just a full how-to, because there's really nothing online besides the guide on iWire's site, and maybe a couple of videos here and there showing exactly how this is going to go. So to help you guys out, I'm going to make a complete how-to video on how to wire up a double pumper with a Hobb switch, the full iWire kit. With that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video right here. If it's a bit short, I apologize, but yeah, we got all the fuel lines ran to the front of the car, and we're getting really, really close to finishing this thing up, and I'm getting really excited. So next video, like I said, will be a how-to on all the wiring, but until then, peace out. See y'all later.